Welcome to the Giant Step podcast with your host, Maurice Bernstein, as we take you on a journey into music and culture from the world of Giant Step.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Giant Step podcast, where we take you on a journey into music and culture. I'm your host, Maurice Bernstein. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Giant Step. And this week, I'm very pleased to bring you a conversation that we had with the legendary Bebel Gilberto, vocalist, music royalty in Brazil, an all-round amazing person. This episode was originally recorded as an Instagram Live, December the 21st, 2020, with Bebel speaking to us from Rio de Janeiro. And as it was done on Instagram Live, please excuse any sort of voice glitches or audio issues because, as usual, the content is well worth listening to. And if you want to find out more about Giant Step, come and visit our website at giantstep.net. And please follow us on Instagram at Giant Step and send us messages and notes and tell us what we think about our podcasts. So now please enjoy my conversation with the great Bebel Gilberto.
You can see a little bit of Rio.
I was going to say, can we see Rio? Can we get a view of Rio before we're in freezing cold New York. I want to see Rio de Janeiro. Wow.
Okay, you want to really see it? Hold on a minute.
I want to really, we want
You really want to see it?
Yeah.
Rio
by the sea. Which beach is that? Where exactly are we looking at? Which is that? Ipanema or where?
Okay, so let me go back because I cannot hear you from outside.
So
come, Ella, come inside.
Which beach were we looking at?
This is Arpoador Beach. It's actually where Ipanema and Copacabana meet. So it's an amazing place, and I'm at this wonderful hotel called Fasano. My house is in construction, and luckily I got invited to be here after staying in this other beautiful hotel called Janeiro. And now I'm here with my dog that disappeared. I think I'm not
right. Probably gone to the beach.
Excuse me?
He's probably gone to the beach.
I'm in front of the beach, but
yeah.
The problem is that the temperature, it's been quite
cold.
High. And as the doctor says, I don't think it's that safe to go to the beach with that many people.
Right.
So try to avoid. I've been twice to the beach in the whole pandemic.
Right.
Now, more than anything, I don't think it's a best idea to be at the beach now.
Understood. Well, Bebel, it is an absolute honor to have you joining us for the Giant Step IG Live. Cheers. Unfortunately, I'm only on water, but you are a legend. You are Brazilian music royalty and a legend, and it's such an honor to have you. It's just great to catch up because so much has been going on in the world in the last year, and so much has been going on with you as well. So I really want to talk about a number of things, and then if we have time, I'd love to also allow people to ask some questions.
Wow! I think I got 2 glasses of wine then.
Yeah, good. So for me, a great way to start is always to really understand the person by their early years, and especially with your pedigree, is so incredible. I just love to hear a little bit about just what it was like growing up as Bebel Gilberto, the daughter of, and you're going to have to excuse my Portuguese pronunciation is terrible. So
do you want to say I'm going to bring some water over so I don't get drunk?
Okay.
João, let me
Well,
say it. The daughter of João Gilberto and Miúcha. Does that make
Miúcha. I was
sense
going to
to
get
you?
Miúcha right and João right, actually. And also, you're the niece of Chico Baroque and also
Buarque.
Barake,
Chico
right?
Buarque.
And Anna de Holland and Christina Baraki as well. So you everywhere you look in your life, you had this such a rich musical. There was. Did you ever think of not being a musician?
No, I never actually been, not, never thought about not being an artist. So that's when I challenge, and I'm so happy. Like today, I was arriving here, and I was trying to get my password to work with Instagram. I got all this digital group. Now we lost some instant, and then because you are who you are, everything stops, and they do everything to make you look great and be great just because you have a life. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So it's not only because you're an artist, but because you have a mission. And I believe that as you grow up in the family that have been kind of working like that, and sometimes being privileged in certainly circumstances, it's not only glamour, but like today, even though it's a very special day and I did not meditate and I did not do what I supposed to do, I'm taking the time to talk to you guys that before talking about my childhood, I must say that the day I arrived in New York and I had posters all over with my face on. And people were telling me over the phone, we didn't really have, no, we were about to start having cell phones at the time. And then I did that wonderful concert at the Shine.
Yeah. Yeah. With Giant
Jonathan,
Step. Yeah. Yeah.
and I was
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
champagne, and nobody
Yeah.
had any champagne at the Shine.
Yeah.
And then he shows up with this vintage Dom Perignon. I don't know where champagne was, and I was
Yeah.
like, I never seen that champagne. Oh my God, a vintage one. So that moment was so important for me, and I believe I'm very lucky and you know brilliantly lucky to have the pleasure to work with you guys more than once. So
Oh, thank you.
let's go back
Oh.
to my
Oh,
childhood.
yeah. Yes. Thank you. That, I mean, of course. I mean, that our goal was to work with artists like you. So the honor was all ours. But yeah, so talk a little bit about growing up, because I know you also traveled around a lot. Your parents were living in just you lived in Mexico City. So um, give the viewers a little bit of a snapshot of what it was like being
So,
a
yeah,
young
well,
Bebel.
when people say that I was born in New York, I was literally born in New York. I am a New Yorker. I was born on in the hospital at Midtown, but my first place was on 71st Street. I mean 72nd Street, right across Dakota. That was my first
Oh,
home.
wow.
How bad that was. And funny enough, when I was moving back to Brazil, the last place I stayed was right at the corner of this majestic building, which is right across the street from Dakota. So I remained there until I was 3 years old, and then I moved to Mexico to be with my parents. My father was recording this wonderful album called Farolito and João in Mexico. I think it was no, it's João in Mexico and has a Farolito song. Sorry, my mistake. And then because I was starting to really speak, I immediately learned Spanish. So I would speak
Oh,
Spanish to my parents, and they would speak Portuguese with me. By that time, I think music and guitar and my parents singing was just my life, and I didn't have much more to do besides watching them and trying to imitate the sounds, or sometimes even,
did
improvise.
did you realize who they were? I mean, because they were your parents, but did it sink in that, I mean, your father, you know, started a music revolution, like, yeah.
No, I don't think I was like. I always knew my father was famous, but I just realized that he was really famous when he arrived in Brazil by the 80s. And I sang with him Chega de Saudade for the TV show. And for me, I was such a naive girl. What did I know about life and stuff? And having so many important people watching me in the global TV special with all the celebrities you can imagine. So I think by that time I realized how important he was and how important I became because I sang along with him. Chega de Saudade.
And how old were you when you did the TV show?
14 years.
Wow. And had you already started singing?
Oh, I did my first recording when I was 7 years old. That's
With your
when
mom, right?
with my
You did it,
mom.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I did some TV commercials. I did some jingles, and also I think, which is very important for the people that are listening to me, I try, okay, to learn music, but I was never a good student, and I never really had patience because I got the feeling that improvising was much easier, which it is, and you just get in your comfortable zone and you don't want to change. But to be honest, I think my biggest school was at the teaching lesson of learning melodies very fast was because I did so many commercials and jingles to help my mother. So I would used to leave school and just go to studio, and from one studio I would do Mickey Mouse Club and Bernardo and Bianca or whatever Disney, you know, animation film was in the area or about to come, and I was always doing a character or something else. So I'm very proud of that because I think that creates a lot of musicality on me. And even though when the melodies were a little weird, I would just change. And then later on, I was doing a recording for a film called Menino do Rio, Guilherme Arantes. I never told this story to anyone. And then Guilherme Arantes, who is an amazing musician, was like, I love that the part of the melody that you have changed. And I was like, a change? Yes, it was like something else, which was a little not that interesting. And I just added a bandit note. This was when I was around my 16 years old. So I think that just, taught me how to improvise without being so jealous or so guilty or so worried with the melody itself, but playing it and always adding without being so aggressive and changing the whole music. So for me, that was a big school. And then after that, I started doing theater, which I think it helped me a lot. And again, my mom comes back and my uncle, Chico Buarque, we did Os Saltimbancos when I was 11 years old. And it was a musical that started with the recordings of the, the sounds and the music with all the group of children. Of course, I was the pupil that sing all the solos. And then we did the play, and we also draw everything and paint
Oh,
it. So
wow.
I draw a lot, I paint a lot. So I definitely I think I was prepared by life amazingly, and I'm very happy that life got me this presents that I just now that I'm older, I know how to appreciate. Oh,
Right.
there's Ari, my friend. Hi,
Yeah.
Ari.
You got a lot of people, you got a lot of friends who are sending hearts, emojis to you. You're making everyone very happy.
Thank God today's a
Yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
day and it's
yeah.
important one, right?
So, I mean, so your father had moved to New York, was living in New York, and your mother was touring a lot. So you were living in Rio with your grandparents, with your family.
I
You were
was
going
living
to school.
in Sao Paulo with my grandmother. My father was in US and my mother was everywhere. And then I also had something important to say I don't want
Sure.
to forget. The first forbidden film for adults I saw was Hair. And I had all my makeup on, trying to pretend that I look 18. I just wanted to let us go. And today Aquarius is up to
Hmm.
start again.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I saw the tail of the film because imagine when I think I was 9 actually when I watched it. Imagine watching that film when you were 9 years old in Brazil and you knew you were American and you knew Central Park exists,
Right.
but I didn't remember any of that. And my English was so poor. So, anyway, so going back, I was with my parents in Sao Paulo. Thank God, my grandparents, I'm sorry, my grandparents, my grandfather was a historian, my grandmother, mother is 7. and grandmother of 14, I believe. And she raised me beautifully, and she taught me to how to try to be a princess. I'm still trying, but I think she did a good job.
I think she did a great job. And so musically, obviously you had the heritage of your family, but were you listening to Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath? What were you listening to as a teenager?
I never listened to Led Zeppelin. Until I had a boyfriend that was crazy about rock, and that was already 19. The first music that really touched my heart and opened my eyes for, you know, other kind of music besides my father's music. Let's
Hmm.
put it that way. I'm not gonna even say world music because I don't even know.
I hate that expression.
I heard "Isn't She Lovely" in a Christmas party from Beth Faria. Beth Faria is an incredible actress, and my aunt is also an actress that was married to Chico. And we went there on the 24th. The 24th was ever at her house, and opposite of my parents, my uncle, including myself, we don't really listen to music, especially loud music, unless we sit down and pay attention. But background music, it's something that I never really learned how to do. But then "Isn't She Lovely" was on the back, and then I asked them to play it again, and then I got crazy with Steve Wonder, and then I got myself deep on The Secret Life of Plants, and also at the same time I discovered Michael Jackson and Earth, Wind and Fire, and Donna Summer, Let's Dance. So these were really the first music I heard. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to Led Zeppelin.
Right, it's okay. So
But then,
somebody just asked a question. They wanted you to go back and talk a little bit more about your grandfather. Somebody said you need to talk. So so do you want to maybe give a couple of
my
sentences?
grandfather was the most interesting person in the world, and I think he was a bohemian. He lived in Germany, in Berlin. He actually did the first translation from Germany to Portuguese. He
Wow.
was obsessed about history, and always tried to tell me the stories that I needed to learn, including Adam and Eve, or the beginning of the peace here, because he was also talking about the yellow fever, and
Hmm.
also at the beginning of the pandemic, I was talking about that. But everything he would tell me, all the stories will have the touch of a teacher that always wanted to be funny but couldn't be funny because he was a historian. So with his first granddaughter, he let himself be the Red Hood girl, and I could be the wolf. Everything was opposite. We'll stop in the traffic. You call the car, the next car, and say, "Hey, do you see this little girl behind me? She's my god. She's my grandmother. Do you know that?" And I was being, "Don't do that. You're crazy." So he was that kind of person. At some point, we tease each other so much on the way to the university. My grandmother driving and him talking and having a fight with me, that she literally stopped the car and said, "Okay, one out, or I can keep driving. Otherwise, I cannot do it that way."
Hmm.
So again, I don't think I'll be Bebel if I wouldn't be my grandfather's granddaughter.
Hmm.
And thank you for whoever asked me to talk about Papioto. That's the
Hmm.
name because Papi, Papioto, outro, another Papioto.
Right.
Yeah, I would be the bell.
So, you were obviously influenced by your parents' music, your father playing guitar, bossa nova in the house, but you've never seen yourself as a bossa nova artist.
No, my father
Yeah,
doesn't see himself as a bossa nova artist. That's a label. Nothing against bossa nova.
right.
We danced with the bossa nova, but he was much more. He created a sound. He had a whole aesthetic way of seeing things, and he was almost like a philosopher. So I wouldn't say that is only bossa nova, but yes, the sound of his guitar, the whispery singing, they're not overdoing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most subtle artists I've ever experienced live in my life. I mean, I saw your father a couple of times perform live, but the first time was in 1987 at the Town Hall in New York, and it was
Oh,
just him on.
like a show.
Yeah, it was him on stage solo playing his guitar, and you could. First of all, the audience was silent. I mean, you could hear a pin drop in there, but I also know that he had, you know, he didn't really enjoy performing. He would get nervous performing, you know.
I think at some point you enjoy. That was when
Right.
I do you remember the length of the show at the
Yeah.
town hall,
Yeah.
how long it was.
It was a long time. Yeah. It was a long
So
time.
that's what it is. I think that when he will find himself, when he will play with his legs and the guitar, and then finally have fun, he wouldn't stop.
Right. It was one of the most moving performances that I'd ever seen, and just the subtlety of his guitar playing, his voice, his just the way he pronounces words was just so beautiful. I mean, it was incredible. Yeah.
That's amazing. I was 21 years old, 87. Right after I moved to New York, 3 years later.
So that's a very good segue because I wanted to talk about you moving because that was kind of like the next big phase in Bebel's life, right? You coming to New York. So you came to New York.
So in 86, I did my first album, the EP called
Hmm.
Bebel Gilberto.
Hmm.
That I wrote Preciso Dizer Que Eu Te Amo with Cazuza and this other door that I have in my life, which is amazing because luckily I met Cazuza, which in today's day rests like 5 minutes away from where my mother is laying in the cemetery. And I always make jokes about the bougainville that over him is bigger and she needs to have it. I was just visiting her last week, because I was adding Musha on her. My mother always loved the cemetery, so don't get this wrong. Of course, I got water in my eyes, but she taught me how to like cemetery, so I don't have a problem with that anyway. But with Preciso Dizer Que Eu Te Amo, I think I achieved a different position in my life, although my music wasn't really embraced by the rock music that was happening in Brazil at that time. And even though I was Cazuza's friend and everything, nothing really happened. We got the Grammy, Brazilian Grammy at that time, Prêmio Chá, Best Song of the Year. But my career and the whole thing kind of got lost. And then I decided to move to New York, invited by Arthur Lindsay to do a show at the Brooklyn Academy of Music,
Oh wow.
a
Damn.
tribute to Carmen Miranda.
Wow.
Excuse me. Yeah, that was a crazy show. The other day I met Arthur at Thomas Bartlett, my producer, the producer of Agora, my
Hmm.
new album.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we were talking about how crazy he was. We were, because I think he had no idea how to direct a musical at the BAM with that big budget and all the responsibility he had and the crazy uh, host host that he had, like me, Gal Costa, Nana Vasconcelos.
Wow. No,
Uh,
no, yeah.
yeah, it was kind of weird at the same time. But that was the reason I came to New York. I got the invitation, I got the ticket, and then I was an American citizen. I just decided to stay.
Right. And where did you live when you first moved to New York? Where did you
I
find
think
your home? Like where
on East
your
Village, on 3rd Street between A and B, 184 East 3rd Street. And to be honest, I actually said that I lived on the same, I mean, at the corner where I was born, but I forgot to add one little thing. I had one more week that I had to stay before I was going to Thailand because I was heading to Japan at the beginning of the year. And last minute, the place I was staying wasn't available anymore. So I had to rent a place. And my dear friend, who is my PR here, Mario, said, Bebel, There's a place on Third Street between A and B. Do you like that area? I was like, I used to live there. Don't tell me it's 184. Guess what? It was 184.
Wow.
And I just met my neighbor who was a singer, and I thought she was so huge, and then she was like, "Oh, Bebel, you came here." So yes, I lived there, and then I moved to Astor Place, where I remained my whole life. Number one Astor Place. I never bought an apartment, but I lived like a queen in a penthouse. I had my plants, I had my herbs, I had my roses, I had my sunflower. I was the happiest person in the world.
And you also, one of the scenes that you spent a lot of time in was the New Blue community, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, what Ilhan did, creating that, and still doing, creating that community in Alphabet City back then, created a lot of very important musical moments for New York. And just talk a little bit for those of the people listening who never got to experience what those early days were like at New Blue and that really small packed club. Um, how crazy it was and what great music was being played. Yeah.
I miss No Blue every day. I have a drink. But I go there, stay there. Musically, I had a very interesting relationship because I hated the way the sound was. So I was, you know, I'm never going to do a show here, which I never actually did. I did participations, I did little things, but a real show never. But any show, I'll be the first one to get there and probably the last one to leave. The crazy days we had at the basement, I remember sometimes calling, like, look, the situation here is very delicate. Can you open the basement from the street so I don't have to cross the people from the blue? And he would do that for me. So I could go just straight up to the basement and hang with Clark Gable talking about trombone and doing crazy, trombone lines, writing crazy songs with name, like hanging with Mike Patton and Nora Jones after the piping tom. So many incredible things that seriously, I think what Johan did is amazing. We lost the problem of playing with each other when he did the crazy show here in Sashku 2 years ago, and he didn't want to play any of my songs. And we had like more than four rehearsals for all the 17 new songs we had.
Wow.
So it was amazing. I think that for me, if I didn't have New Blue in my life, I'll be so boring and so rebellious. So I needed to have a little bit of underground, touch just
Right.
to remain the crazy person I am until today.
Very special times. And then, of course, really your breakthrough album, which we're now celebrating the 20th anniversary of Tanto Tempo. Talk a little, because that really was the album where most people, got to know who you were. Talk a little bit about that, because I know it was made, it was released in Europe first, and
Well, to be honest, Cram did a great job. So by the time we were picked by, let's say, East West in London, which was a big help, and also Warner Jazz in France, I was already on 14,000 copies in UK, which at that time for Brazilian artists was
huge.
already
Yeah.
huge. And in France, 20,000 something. When they came in more, then it was a different level. And it was very important for me to have that because it was a recognition that I thought I would maybe never had it or maybe would achieve. And it was glorious times, and also was lucky because I also got the tail of the record stores, right? So I saw my face and the cover album across the street from Tower Records, Virgin Records, HDF,
HMV, HMV, yeah. Hmm.
Imagine. So I could walk from my house 2 blocks down. I'll see my face the size of this window. If I go towards Union Square, I'll see it even bigger.
Out of Virgin,
So
yeah,
in
yeah.
two of my first albums, right after Tanto Tempo and Bebel Gilberto,
Hmm.
were the display, and after that, the record stores disappear. So I didn't really feel the impact of not being famous anymore.
Right. But that record really did to change everything, and that's when we first got a chance to work together, and we did the Shine show with you. We did two shows at Irving Plaza. One of them that I was remembering, we had a guy called Gerald as the DJ, which is kind of, it's like the Bel Gilberto and a guy called Gerald, but that just goes to show how beautifully eclectic the music was back then.
I fall in love with him, and he'll prepare a different set every night because you refuse to repeat the same set, and you refuse to show to someone. And me, as I said, no, turn off the music. Can you turn it off? I'll go to the dressing room. Can I hear Gerald from my dressing room? Because I like to hear him while I'm getting ready.
Right.
You know, that's amazing. I saw him in Australia 2 years ago. We had a beautiful meeting. We were together at oh my God, it's going to come back to my head. This amazing, amazing festival. Midday? No. Oh my God, I forgot the name. Someone is going to remember. But anyway, it was amazing, really.
And we also, which I'd actually forgotten, when I was talking to your manager, I'd forgotten that we put out a 12-inch with you, um, Agaju. We did the Agaju remixes, and we put
Oh,
it out on vinyl. Yeah,
oh, so that it can that's very good. You probably remember Adriana Pena.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, probably watching us, and she's helping me working with us actually on this whole marketing thing. You see, Adriana, that's a very important information. So this vinyl, did it came on the Giant Step
So
label?
we were
They
working
licensed.
we were working with 6 Degrees,
Ah,
and doing the marketing on that album, on the Bebel Gilberto album, and I think some Spiritual South had already done a remix, and
yeah,
there was the Grant Nelson remix of
yeah.
River Song, was it? Um, and
Latin
then
Project.
and Latin Project, they were actually on Giant Step Records, so they did a remix as well. And I don't think, I mean, back then labels weren't really putting out vinyl because they were very much into just
Right.
CDs, and
Yeah.
we were like, well, let's put this out on vinyl because that's what the DJs want. They wanted vinyl back then.
Of
So
course.
yeah, we put it out, and I think we put you on a couple of our compilations, and people just, and for us to be working with you was just like such a thrill. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, those were like special moments, and the touring. Also, like now that we're talking about DJ, the remix mix on my music, I think it was absolutely necessary because it got me in a different platform, let's say, and also enchanted my show to be more danceable. So I'll have the whole sexy night vibe and making babies, but also dance. And I love that because for me, it's really amazing to be dancing and being, you know, lost and loose on stage. When my father told me to do just the opposite.
But your mother probably told you to do.
Oh, my mother will probably be dancing with me. Actually, she sings on Anganju. There are like crazy background vocals that,
Ah,
yeah, that's my mother.
but you've always done stuff with DJs. I remember you were on Toa Tay's solo album, like way back. Like
Yeah, that's
that was
amazing. Amazing of you to remember that.
it's a great
Uh,
album. I love that
yeah.
Toa Tay album. Yeah.
Again, Arthur Lindsay. It was because of him I met him, and I was playing in New York before. I got to be lucky to work with you guys.
Hmm.
I had a gig at the Nails. Remember Nails?
Of course, I remember Nels. Yeah.
All 14th Street.
Well,
So I
I
was
remember
playing
it too well, unfortunately.
the Oh, God, it's so much down there too. So I'm I'm like going to play at Nails, and no, now I got lost. Why oh yes, now I remember.
Tawate.
So Arthur calls me in the afternoon and say that by that time we did not have cell phones. So he left me a message, and I had a very nice friend of mine stay with me. He was like, Bebel, there's this Japanese called Towate. I want you to put his name on it. He didn't say the DJ that was part of the line that I was
Right.
completely crazy about it. But my friend that was connected enough, Tony Vanzolini, he was like, Bebel, Towate from D-Light, Grooves in the Heart. I was like,
Hmm.
you must be kidding. So I add his name in the guest list, and he came and he stayed for the 2 sets. After that, he just gave me his card as a good Japanese guy. He said, will you be available in 2 days to record it with me? I'm going to send you the ideas. And that was just history. So I did the Tekinova, which was a challenge because
Hmm.
he gave me a track with that, just the melody that he wanted me to sing exactly that melody. The tum, 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 tum. Everything kind of cut rhythmically, difficult to follow and dance, but very catchy. So he was like, I want you to say names of fruits and say the word Copacabana.
Right.
It was one of the hardest job I ever had done in my life. And I remember watching to my friends and they were like, uh-huh,
Hmm.
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
No one will get it until it was out.
Right.
And thank God, Tribe Called Quest
Hmm. Hmm.
tablet, and then it got even bigger and got
Hmm.
much more attention.
Hmm.
So that was a good one. I'm very, very, very happy that I did this beginning of my life with Toa. And even though it's planning to you the Samba da Benção, for instance, when I met Suba,
Hmm.
I was living in London and I had met Montobin. And we were
Hmm.
planning to do a song together, a new song together. But when I went to him in Brighton, he was living in Brighton. I was like, Alan, do you have just the track of the Nova? The name of the song was Nova to complete.
Hmm.
The Nova track was like, yeah, hi. Oh, yeah. He had a British accent, although his mother was Brazilian. But we have to do a really new song. Come on, bro. It was like, please let me just take it home. I just would like to sing. And as I got home and I started singing to my husband, then I, out of the blue, start singing Samba da Benção on top of the track. That's how it started. And then when I showed to Suba, Suba got crazy. When I showed back to Amon, Amon got crazy. So I really think that for some reason, spirituality came into my life. It got me together with this twist of DJs and doing
Hmm.
something crossover that wouldn't make me just the daughter of my father and my mother and the granddaughter and the niece and the mother of my daughter.
So
No,
we don't have a lot of time, and I really do want to talk about your new album, which I
sure.
love, by the way, Agura. It's your first album for 6 years, and just before I ask you about it, in me listening to it, it has it reminds me of watching a Humphrey Bogart film, like an old black and
Really?
white movie. It has that sort of like depth to it, where your sort of chanteuse. It just I could just see you, in one of those movies performing this album. It just has that
Oh,
atmosphere about
you
it.
got it. You got it totally. That's amazing because that's exactly what we were. We were not. We never sat down. Thomas Bartlett, the producer of the
Right.
album. So to whoever didn't listen me saying his name, I said before. Thomas, on top of everything, is a dear friend of mine. He's not a musician only at all. He's a very sensible guy. Artistically, he has a very interesting taste. He's a very handsome man. Came from a beautiful family.
So Thomas is not, he's a one of a kind. So as we start creating the music, we kind of found ourselves into this exactly black and white Bogart film scene sound. Sometimes we would confuse ourselves because he would have also a camera on with some old films, a camera, no,
Ah,
like
okay.
a device. Yeah, we would watch old films without any volume. So just to have something happening, in the middle of all those gear of the studio gear. So that also helped me a lot because sometimes we were just watching, I don't know, Fellini film when I was stuck with some words and then the words will just come up to my head. So I would say that the method we choose to do agora, it's a method that should be studied because we were very, very free. We didn't have any pressure. We didn't have a deadline. We didn't even have a record company. So that helps a lot. So Agora was made in a very difficult time, which I'm sure people are also
Yeah.
curious
So
about
you
that.
you were making it. Yeah. Go. Sorry. Go ahead. Just talk about. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I started working on with him as I was coming back from Puglia, and I was already almost getting, the power of attorney of my dad. And then right after my mother got the cancer, and the cancer run very fast. So I was in between coming back to Brazil, taking care of my dad, dealing with my mom, dealing with being in New York and being in Brazil. And I always thought my father was going to die. And then my mother gets very sick, and I get here to be with her, thinking she was going to live another 5 months, but then she just lived 9 days.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. But to be honest, most of the songs were written, but we wrote other 10 ones at that period of the very sadness. So Bolero came after, yet another love song came after, um, Essence, a song I did for my mother, came after as well. So uh, in total, we had like 17 songs that we did in the last 3 years. And I believe that Agora is one of my best albums. And
It's
I
a fantastic album.
today,
Fantastic
which
album.
is an important day, meditation. Bebel's gonna win the Grammy.
Yeah.
Bebel's gonna win the Grammy. Gosh,
And I have to ask you a question. There's no guitar on the album, right?
no, that was
So,
the purpose.
okay. Do you want to talk a
No
little bit about
guitar,
that?
no. Well, that was more Thomas, and I must say that I agree immediately with him. I was in the phase that I was doing like voice and guitar shows for the last 3 years when we start working together. And I think as Thomas has this very electronic sense of harmony and the sounds that he creates, I don't think it would be too much space for the guitar. So, in purpose, he convinced me to sing more in Portuguese and not to use the nylon guitar, not even the
Ah.
guitar.
And obviously, the record came out, I think, August or September.
The album came out in May. I mean,
May. May.
sorry, no, sorry.
It was
It was
supposed to come out.
supposed
Yes. Yeah.
came out the 20 August 26th.
Right. And just talk a little bit about the challenges of releasing an album during pandemic, because um, as an artist, you go on tour, you do your promotion, you're doing interviews, you with your band, you're doing all these things, and now it's this where you're in Brazil, I'm in New York, and we're talking. It's Zooms, it's no touring. Just talk a little bit about just the change of pace and the atmosphere and what that's like.
Adriana Pena just came, and it's nominated to Grammys.
Oh, it is.
Coming back. No, she was just my
Right,
let's see
right.
tutor now. Morris, what I say for me, as you know, I improvise a lot, and I never really study what I am about to say, but I did find something very interesting to say when I was dealing with the press, especially lives, especially press, because I think the press always get shrink in between the tour, the tried outfits, whatever it is, that you get totally nervous because the band is not responding the way you want, all the distractions you can get. So the press is always put in the back of the room, and you never really have time, and you always, manager or agent, whoever, or yourself, you squeeze the poor press. Look how nice I am today. But it is not today. I said that at the time. And then I think what was great about the pandemic, it was that for the first time, I could talk to the press being myself,
Right.
talking to them with all the time. Sometimes, sometimes really, like I had like few interviews that I didn't think I was as good as I could, and I requested journalists if I could talk to them again. At some point, one of them in the south, it was too hot, the light, and I was like, "Look, could you please give me a break?" And then the next day I called, "Can we do it?" And then she loved it, and she gave me the cover of the newspaper.
Wow.
So I think that for me, I embrace it in a very nice way, because I think I personally might need it. I was in the middle of a thunderstorm of emotions, and it will be maybe too soon for me to show myself. Here I am, big with a new album, when I was actually, folding and, sewing my heart back and putting my thoughts and my
Right.
energy back.
Yeah.
So, funny enough, life put me back in Brazil. I was talking about my sixth album in 20 years, released outside Brazil, in Brazil, that it's 90% sang in Portuguese. So, amazing. Now I think it's getting a little too long, and I'm dying to play live, and I'm
Right.
tired of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But still, we are holding up. It's almost there, and it's not time to get crazy and tired. We just have to hold ourselves, listen to
Yeah.
music, meditate, and pray for better times.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I'm going to open it up to questions in a minute, but just anything else you want to say? Is there anything else you want to say? Anything you've learned from these crazy times, or anything you want to share with us?
The glass of, I always hate, I never liked frozen water. After the summer and the pandemic, I'm drinking frozen water, frozen wine, frozen anything. Um, what can I say about that? I think that we're all gonna get out stronger, and we learn a lesson. And I hope the world had learned the lesson I learned. I'm trying my best to be the best I can, and to understand that the world needed that break. Now we just have to defrost ourselves
Yeah.
and get used to the new world
Yeah.
and the new life, because we're gonna have other problems similar to this one as we are having already.
Yeah.
And we can't stop, and we can get depressed, and we can get crazy, and we cannot kill our parents, cats, dogs. We just have to be strong.
Oh, it's beautiful. So I think we have time for one question. So does somebody have a question for Bebel?
Fora Bolsonaro! Well, that's a good question for me about. If it's up to me, yes, baby. It's time for you to fly away. Fly
So
away.
just maybe for the people who didn't really understand what that was, just explain, because the
Well,
politics. Yeah.
Bolsonaro is our current president. He's similar to Trump.
Yeah.
He's in the same school of we're gonna clean and change everything for better, the way they believe it's better. I'm not gonna be wasting our time talking how bad it is this, because I don't think it's time for that. We live in a democracy. So that's what I'm trying to pitch for everyone. So yes, for Bolsonaro. Anyone has another question?
Yes, so a lot of people asking you, when are you going to be touring again? When are you performing in New York? When are you coming to Texas? When are you going to San Diego? We get like from all over the country they're asking. So
Whenever Brazil gets the vaccine, which is a big, big, big problem.
yeah,
That's a big thing. And if you want to call awareness, alert, we don't even know how we're going to get a vaccine.
right,
So,
right. And how it's then going to get distributed. A question that just came in: is Brazil giving you inspiration to write music?
no.
Being in Brazil, okay, okay, no. Another question: when are you going to be back in New York again? You know, and
In May.
in May.
That's
And
in my head.
what
That's when I
ins-
might lose my telephone number, so I have to be there so I don't lose my 917
and,
number.
and what inspires you at the moment?
My dog. Where is
Your
she?
dog, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's my dog. It's I for a long time I've been alone. I never had a daughter, never had a son. I never had a pet for the last 20 years, basically. So yeah, my dog is my biggest inspiration.
right. And the great thing about a dog is they'll always be happy to see you. When your kids
No,
get
my
older, they
dog
don't want to see.
now.
Oh, your dog has its
Yeah,
own.
she
Yeah,
doesn't like. She knows I'm talking too loud. She doesn't
right.
like it.
Well, Bebel, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute honor. You are amazing. Your new album is incredible. So if anybody hasn't heard Agora, I recommend it very, very highly. And I just can't wait to see you live very, very soon. And stay safe,
Thank
stay
you.
well,
Thank you.
and we love you.
I love you too. I have a question for you guys.
Of
So if
course.
I want to do a show with Giant Step again, is that possible? No, Giant
Of
Step
course.
doesn't.
Anytime you want to work with me,
We
this
can do it
we'll
again.
do whatever you want to do with me.
Is Jonathan back in New York?
No, he
Nah.
lives in Portland. He lives in Portland now. Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah,
He found
Portland.
a woman over there,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
reason. Well, when we go that far, we always know the reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, Morris, was beautiful talking to you. I
Yes.
hope I hope my answers were not too
You were
long.
amazing. You were amazing.
And I promised I wasn't going to drink, but I drink a little. I hope I did not ruin it.
That's okay. You were fantastic. And I loved seeing the beach behind you as well.
Oh, that was good, right? And let me try to get my dog quickly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she hid herself, so I'm not gonna hold you forever.
Camera shy.
Yeah, or maybe lock herself outside. Anyway, oh, she's at the door. Anyway, she's saying hi.
Well, goodbye. Lots of love.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Step podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe or follow us on Instagram at Giant Step. Music is by Sinego. Please also visit our website, giantstep.net, to learn more about our award-winning marketing agency.